Hi everyone, this is Master Matt, and today we're going to go through another stretching routine. This is what I'm going to call my daily stretching routine. Now by routine, I don't mean this is something you need to follow step by step in the exact format that I'm doing every single day. You know I hate stale workouts and doing the same thing all the time, but rather this is supposed to be a structure of your routines that you hopefully can do daily. The idea behind this is stretching in the most efficient way to make the best progress that you can. We're going to be starting off with our dynamic motions to wake up our muscles and to prevent injuries, and then we're going to get into some static stretches to reach our flexibility, and then we're going to incorporate into some of the motions some isometric stretches to really deepen our flexibility. So you're going to see some similarities from this to my deep stretching routine video, which is about 40 minutes of stretching, but this is going to be more concise and shorter. So this is what I consider the minimum of stretching that you can get in, given that you have the time to do this every day. So with that said, we're going to get started. You don't need any equipment for this. I might be using the pole as a wall for a couple of the stretches, but you shouldn't need much else besides the ground and yourself. So let's get started. So like I said, we're going to get started with some dynamic motions, assuming you haven't done any kind of warm-up today, but even if you have, it's still good to do this kind of stuff in the middle of your stretches to keep your blood flowing and keep everything moving. So we're going to start with some leg swings, just light with one leg at a time, and then we'll switch. This is just our, like I said, our warm-up, so that when we do our stretches, we feel a lot more comfortable and less likely to hurt ourselves. Opposite leg. We're going to take our knees and rotate them around to get the joints moving just a bit. And then we're going to open up and just reach across from fingers to opposite toes here and here. You don't want to do this too fast. Don't want to pull on these muscles too hard, but you should just feel some light, easy stretching as our muscles start to move. Then we're just going to do some side stretches, some light leg stretches to each side, lifting our toes so that the hamstring can start to stretch. And like we've done before, we're just going to start getting a little bit lower every few times. Again, we're just starting out nice and light. Then we're going to do some hip stretches. We're going to get into a figure four position, which is just putting the ankle over the opposite knee. You might need to hold on to a wall to do these, but nonetheless, we're just going to do some light squats with one leg. It's kind of hard to balance sometimes, so feel free to use a wall if you have to. We're not going super deep. Try not to bend my back over either, so I just feel light movement in my outer hip on this leg that's crossed over. And we'll switch. Make sure you get the ankle past the knee so that your bones aren't rolling over each other. And we'll do one more. Very good. Okay, so now we're going to start with some stretches. We're going to sit down in our seated hamstring stretch with one leg folded in. We're just going to reach to that foot and hold the stretch. It's important to start easy and always give yourself room to work up. So you shouldn't be going to your full limit yet. But on the other side of things, you shouldn't stay here the whole time. So if you're just sitting here for a few minutes and a few breaths, a few seconds, you should try to go deeper. That's why it's good to stretch more than like 10 seconds for whatever you're doing. because just those 10 seconds or 20 seconds are only giving your muscles the ability to just get to the point where they're ready to stretch. So if you just leave them right then and there, then you're not going to make any improvements. And we're going to switch sides. Try to go a little deeper. All right, we're going to put our feet together and stretch again our hamstrings here. Now that both legs are kind of warmed up, we should be able to get a little deeper with both out. And I don't have a timer. I think I've only ever done one stretching video using a timer. I just prefer to stretch by feel. But some people might perform better with a timer, and you can do like 40 to 60 seconds per stretch to keep yourself on track. But I'd like to, if I'm not in a time crunch, just go until I feel like I'm good, which through experience you kind of realize where those points are. And with this one, we're going to add in one of those isometric or the PNF stretches that we talked about, but we wanted to just stretch them for a minute first. So the isometric stretch here is kind of hard to feel at first, so you might have to try this a few times. But what we're going to do is hold our stretch, and then we're going to try to push our lower back forward into the stretch, or straighten it out more, and you should feel a more intense pull in your hamstrings. And we're going to hold that for a few seconds as our contraction, and then we're going to try to go lower after that. So first I'm going to get into my position, and then now we're going to just take that lower back and push it forward for a few seconds and just hold and breathe and try to go deeper. And we'll do this a couple more times, but give ourselves a few seconds in between to elongate our muscles and our tendons to get ready for the next contraction. So here we go again. We're going to push forward. And release. It's kind of intense. This stretch already to me is a very intense stretch, so adding more intensity is hard. So I don't do this all the time, but it's very good for you if you can endure it. And we're going to do one more contraction here and go. And relax. And just hold that for a few more seconds. All right, next we're going to stretch some of our hips. So we're going to get into first our pigeon position, which is where we take one leg and we're going to fold it over in front. And we're just going to try and feel the stretch in this hamstring as well as the hip. So you're going to lower this knee without trying to fall over on your side. So try to keep this leg with the knee down. Technical difficulties. There we go. And then once we're here, we can kind of move around in it so we don't cramp up. Introduce some motion and some blood flow. You can feel what parts are tighter, what positions are tighter. You can give some more attention to those if needed. And then we're just going to kind of sit now in sort of a 90-90 position, and I'm going to now reach my chest towards my foot here, so a little bit across, because my chest is going to be more in line with my knee, but I want to go across to my foot more because I'll feel a better stretch in this leg. Okay, and then we're going to come up to our lunge position on the same leg and just sit forward. So you should be aiming to push this back hip towards the ground as well as pushing this knee forward and adjusting your foot as necessary. Feel comfortable along the way and you can get towards your elbows, feel free. But as long as you're going deeper throughout the stretch, that's what you're looking for, is that improvement, so that you can keep adding on the next time and get better at your flexibility. Okay, and then one more from this position, we're going to slide back on our hamstring, stretch another dimension of our hamstring here. Just trying to fold our body over. So bring our abdomen over, trying to touch it to our thigh. Just try not to crane your neck too much. You want to keep that straight. Okay, and then we're going to do the entire thing again on our left side, or whatever side you haven't done yet. So first is my pigeon pose. So I'm just going to cross this foot over and try to ease that knee towards the ground until I feel a stretch, which I do. You can move around a little bit, get some motion going. It's a nicer feel in the stretch as you go further when you're moving around in it. That discomfort starts to fade as you stretch out, which is the point of why we're doing this. To improve our ranges of motion, and that helps us to do everything in our everyday life. Okay, good. We're going to sit in this position, and now we're just going to push towards that foot. And then we're going to come up into our lunge. First, just push forward. And then we're going to try and ease forward if we can. And I know that I sometimes give a disclaimer or a suggestion on my stretching videos, whether to do it before or after a workout or at certain times. But this is like a standalone routine that I just like to fit in a part of the day. If I have time wherever, this is something I like to do, just strictly for flexibility. This is not for performance, immediate performance in something in particular. I'm going to come up and do my hamstring stretch. But say if I'm going to do this in a part of a day and then later on I have some kind of physical activity I'm going to perform, I'm still going to do my routine for that. It might be shorter, it just might be a quick leg warm-up if I'm doing some kind of workout or running or something. But this is what I keep this routine here on the side as just something that I'm using to progress daily in my flexibility, if that makes sense. All right, and then now I'm going to get into my seated split first. This is going to help stretch my groin and hamstrings a bit, so I'm just going to go from side to side in the middle as well, just to get some pull on these muscles. And ideally, if I can fit in like once a week or so, that deep stretching routine that I've done before, I do try to do that, but I don't have time to do that, or I wouldn't even recommend doing that if you have the time every single day, just because that's a lot of stress on your muscles. Even though it's good for you to stretch them, they need time to rest. And I don't do this 365 days a year, but when I say daily, I mean it's pretty routine that I find time to sit down and do my own stretching, just to keep myself going. Because it's very easy to lose progress that you make. You can spend 6 months doing really well with your flexibility and seeing a lot of changes, and then 2 bad weeks can remove that. So it's just important to be consistent. Even if you're doing a little bit every day, it adds up. And then I'm going to walk up to my middle split and then start spreading a bit. You can move around with your upper body towards each leg. Again, you'll feel those tight spots. And you don't want to get too stuck in one position, so I like to start my stretches moving a bit. And then we're going to turn to one side to a front split. So we're going to do just a hold on each side first, and then we're going to go back and do our isometric movements in these stretches. But we want to have them open up a bit before we do that. I'm going to change sides. I do repeat a lot of my stretches because there's only a finite amount. But what I do change is the order or the style of the stretch that I'm doing, because like we've talked about before, you can You can do different stretches from the same position, and you can use different methods so that you're not doing the same thing all the time. Come back to our middle split, and we're just going to do 2 contractions per split. Come back a little bit. So with the contractions here, to remind you, we are bringing our legs towards each other, or pretending that we are, just trying to pull them that way, but the ground is going to prevent us from doing that. So that's going to be our contraction, and we're going to try and go deeper. So first one, here we go, and pull. And relax. So just go, even if it's just a hair deeper, that's still something. Relax for a few seconds. And we're going to do one more contraction here. Here we go. And relax. Just a little bit deeper. Quite intense, but it feels good when you get up. All right, I'm going to come up a bit so I can turn. And then we're going to do the same thing on our front splits. So I'm going to ease out into a comfortable position first, hold for a few seconds before we do our contractions. All right, here we go with the first one. We're going to pull. And relax. Great. Trying to keep your legs in line as much as you can. One more contraction. Here we go. And relax. Good job. All right, we're going to switch sides. First, we're going to ease out and get into our stretch for a little bit. All right, with our first contraction, here we go. Pull. And relax. Next contraction, here we go. Pull. And relax. Very good. Okay, we're going to finish up in our butterfly position with some dynamic motion and some PNF motion. So first I'm just going to sit with my heels as close to me as I can. We're just going to move our knees up and down, bouncing. Light motion. This is where I'm going to use the wall. So I'm going to back up to the wall. We've done this one numerous times, but I really like it, so I do it a lot. So I'm going to get my knees into a comfortable position. And I'm just going to move them around a bit. Now I'm just going to hold them, and then after a few seconds we're going to do our contractions, which is when we pull our knees up into our hands and resist, and then we drop deeper. So we'll do 3 of those and then we'll finish. So here we go with the first one, pull. And relax. Push down a little bit more. Great. Scoot back a little bit, try to get my back as flat to the wall as I can. Next contraction, pull up. And relax. Good job. We just have one more. And contract, here we go. And relax. Great, feel already much more flexible. So I'm going to finish up, and I'm just going to sit in my squat position, just to open up my hips some more. But as I've said, this is our daily stretching routine. You can think of it as just a base idea of something you should do almost daily. This isn't too intense, too deep, but also it's not too light to where you're not going to get any progress from it. So you can plug different exercises in here, and you can flip around the order any which way you want. But the idea is dynamic motion to start, and then you get into a static stretch to introduce flexibility, range. And then if it's applicable, you can add the PNF or isometric contractions into your stretches just to deepen them that much more. But you want to keep that just to a moderate amount for that. But as always, stretching is important. It's good for your flexibility, but even if you're not trying to be super flexible, it's good just to have motion for whatever you're doing. It keeps you feeling a lot better. So make sure you're doing this in your exercises. Thank you guys for watching, and keep training.